Hey guys, welcome to Travel Bros episode 16. We're talking Italian hotels, Italian luxury hotels. And if you are a fan of Italy, you need to know about all these properties we're about to hit you with. However, I got a news story today that is also about Italy, and I think it's kind of fun. I'm going to read you some notes from this news article from CNN, Jamie. I want
Okay.
a reaction to this. Here's the title. Italy will need proof your hotel was really as bad as you say it is under proposed new law.
Is
Yeah,
this for
I know.
writing reviews?
Yes. So complaining about bad tourist amenities is about to get a lot harder in Italy if a new law being considered by the country's parliament gets to go ahead. The proposed law by Italy's tourist minister, I'm not even going to attempt to say her name, will put the onus on travel review sites like TripAdvisor to verify that anyone leaving a review has actually visited the establishment they are reviewing and they're not getting paid to write. Any reviewers will be required to verify a valid ID and proof that they stayed in the establishment within the last 14 days.
I
What do you
don't.
think?
I was gonna say I don't disagree with the having to stay there. I think that's pretty. I think that's reasonable because
Okay.
I mean you can get people just review bombing. So I don't think that's terrible. The ID and everything that seems a little bit over the top, but I feel like if you can show that you stayed there, that's that's fair.
Okay. I don't know how I feel about it yet, but let's continue.
I don't know if you remember this. This is probably 4 or 5 years ago now. It was it in Indonesia, Bali maybe somewhere that the person trashed the hotel on the
Oh,
reviews and
got
they wound up getting
arrested, right?
arrested.
Yeah. What about influencers? The new law would make it illegal to pay someone to write a positive review or to offer any incentives, discounts for services, according to Italy's Communication Regulation Authority, and it would be enforcing this legislation. In the same way, however, it is necessary to regulate the sphere of social networks more effectively, where a myriad of influencers and micro-influencers review restaurants, clubs, spas, hotels, accommodation facilities every day through their content that appears to be personal and disinterested opinions, but which in reality are a result of commercial agreements or grants of gifts that are not clearly communicated to the public. The bill is currently only meant to cover hotels, restaurants, and private sites, but could eventually extend to goods and services, including Amazon.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the reality of enforcement seems tough, but it's just some Italian tourism news. Be warned, influencers, micro influencers, and people who like leaving bad reviews of hotels.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's some interesting changes they're trying to introduce. That seems like a lot of work to try and enforce it, but we'll see.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought it was at least somewhat topical and relevant. I hadn't really heard anyone talk about it when I
It's the
came
first I've
across it.
heard of it.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll clip that and become worldwide famous. But
Well, I was going to
maybe
say
not.
maybe we'll get some invites to some of these hotels we talk about before those laws go into effect.
There you go. Or we'll be the first people jailed for
Right?
that's out. Okay, probably not. Anyway, and if we were ever to receive anything, we would certainly disclose it in its entirety, unlike other people on the internet. But that's, here. So today we didn't have a lot of guidelines here. Hotels had to be in Italy. I really went and dug up 5 hotels I wanted to stay at. So that was pretty simple for me. I think if this episode goes well, we talked about maybe doing some more regional ones. I just think Italy's hotels become so strong and immense in the last decade even.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say most of these hotels that we're reviewing today are probably on the higher end, like
Yes,
luxury hotels.
we're pretty ultra luxury here. I have 2 hotels that I would say are under 750 a night.
Okay, that's fair.
So I've got some budget friendly, but I also have some real astronomical ones. So I, one interesting note I will say, I found that when I looked at the calendar for all of these hotels, there are definitely off-season dates where you can get into these hotels at good prices. You're not going to find cheap prices during the summer in Italy. You're not going to find cheap prices over Christmas or spring break or the whole month of August when France is not working. But like if you can make your way to some of these hotels, maybe in say February, March, around some other times, maybe even September, October, I do think you could probably stay at a lot of these hotels for less than 50% of what their average nightly rates are.
That's good.
Just to keep in mind, if you're flexible, if you don't have kids, if you have flexible work, or if you're an older retired person, there is definitely some savings to be had. If you're stuck on like a school schedule, Italy's going to be a rough one for you for sure. All right, so I'm going to start off. We're going to take it to Venice. I'm doing the Gritti Palace. It is technically a Marriott property under the luxury collection, but it resembles nothing of any Marriott you've ever stayed at, I guarantee you. I'm very bitter. 2 years ago, I went to Venice for the first time, and I could not make this room work because I traveled with a lot of family members and we needed multiple rooms, and it was just a little too outrageous, fortunately. So I haven't stayed there. It's on my list. Gritti Palace, luxury collection property. It was built in 1475 when the Doge of Venice, yes, Doge of Venice, Andrea Gritti commissioned it. It was first the official residence of the Gritti family. The palace was later used as the residence of the Vatican ambassadors to Venice. Fast forward over time, it was converted into a hotel. Two really interesting notes is Ernest Hemingway wrote most of Autumn in Venice while staying in this hotel, which pretty cool. I mean, not useful really for your staying there, but it was, just an interesting note. And then Woody Allen filmed scenes from his 1996 romantic comedy, Everybody Says I Love You, from that hotel as well, mostly in the Hemingway suite. So there's a lot of ties to Ernest Hemingway. You're a big Ernest Hemingway fan. 82 rooms in total. It is intentionally decorated like a house. I will say, like, they've intentionally designed it to where it does not look like a hotel. It looks like it was originally built as like a wealthy person's mansion, almost. Okay. It's got a lot of maximalist design. So like if you can't take maximalist design, if you don't know what that is, Google it. But it's just like, it's like instead of like there being a bare wall, there's something everywhere, right? It's just all over the place, bright colors, but it's done in a really, I don't know, timeless and I think classic way that kind of matches the building. The hotel was closed from 2011 to 2013, and they did over a $50 million renovation. So that should tell you that it's been upkeep. It's really taken care of. Your average nightly rate here is about $1,500. What I saw is high season, you're starting to push towards $2,200, $2,500. And then I could find some nights where you're under $1,000. And I think if you've got a chance to stay here under $1,000 a night, I would not consider staying anywhere else in Venice. I think it's probably the best location in Venice. If you're coming in from the Venice airport, you can take a water taxi right into the hotel. Technically, it's on the main island, so you can take the train station in and walk your way, or take a water taxi over to the property as well. The bathrooms in every room I looked at has these stunning, just floor to ceiling, like marble. They look fantastic. And then one of the cool things too is they have like an old school front desk where like if you look behind the front desk board, it has all the holes for the rooms, like where you get the mail and stuff, and they put the big keys in there, and they're like these huge key slats. And I was even reading a review where someone says like the key is really bulky, so like you can turn it into the front desk when you leave for the day, and they'll put it like in your cubby holes. That's just kind of like, something you don't see every day. Everyone I've talked to that stayed there personally, every feedback I've heard from, it's really great old school service. They're on top of everything. Most of the employees there have been there for 20 plus years. It's a very good like system flow feel. Like all the employees know each other. I was talking to someone who went in the 90s and then came back in 2015, 16, and they said a lot of the staff recognized that they had remembered. So I do think that's, unique and add some value to the property as well. You're not dealing with all this turnover that you might see in some of the industry. I think one of the real key features of this hotel is the breakfast buffet. You do it outside on the canal. And one of the problems, if you haven't been to Venice, that you might not know about is it is overrun with seagulls. And I mean, overrun. They're just everywhere, and pigeons as well, but they're just birds. I think there's more birds than humans on this island. So interesting note, at some point they had hired falcons with falconeers, or whatever you call a person with a falcon, to scare off the birds. And I guess they did that for a while, but it wasn't the most cost effective. And then it looks like they progressed to giving everyone water guns. It's also kind of fun. I mean, you might spray some other people, which I guess could be unfortunate. But it looks like now they've kind of put some glass up on the canal, and they have these little tents. So they've kind of enclosed it in. I did see someone complaining they were there during the winter months, and I guess they haven't actually bothered heating that little space. So they said it was like a little cold to sit outside for breakfast. They were like, if you did lunch or dinner, the day had warmed up. So as a note, if you're in the colder months, it might not feel the best sitting outside. But I think that's my little summary of Gritti Palace. Any questions you got there?
No, so I guess in the winter too, it sounds like you still do breakfast outside. They just got to get that heated.
You can do inside. So the
Okay.
buffet itself is inside, and there's seating inside. But like the famous seating, like what everyone talks about, is you just eat right on the edge of the canal. So that's kind of like the unique
Yeah.
thing. And another note too is you cannot go to breakfast there as a non-guest. So breakfast is only for hotel guests. So I think that does add to that kind of unique specialness of that property.
That's pretty cool.
So that's Gritti Palace, the best hotel in Venice. I'd love to hear about the second best hotel in Venice that you're going to review for us.
I know this one's good. This could be up there with you. So this is going to be a little bit newer hotel. I think yours was built in 1475 or something.
Yep.
It's going to be a little bit newer, built in 1550. So
Oh,
we are
well,
going to talk
wow.
about talking about the Aman Venice. So I mean, anytime you hear Aman, you know it's going to be super nice, super luxury. Fun fact about this hotel: one, it's super small. It's only got 24 rooms and suites, so it's a very exclusive property. So it's not going to be a lot of people staying there. But this is actually where George Clooney got married back in 2014, I believe I read. So you know that it's a special place when you got a high profile celebrity like that, choosing this as their wedding location. Little history of the property. So like I said, it was built back in 1550. It was actually acquired by another family, the Papadopoli family, in 1864. And they really, I guess, are the ones that kind of redid the property, right? I mean, still we're talking hundreds of years ago, but they redid it. They added some private gardens. This is one of the few properties in Venice that actually have like a garden, right? There's a lot of waterways and everything, but they actually have a garden like in the courtyard here. So seems like it's a kind of a neat retreat, right? Like somewhere you can sit down, have some greenery in the middle of like the hustle and bustle of Venice. So that looks really cool. Interior of the property, it is still very classic throwback. It's got, lots of frescoes. You've got gilded ceilings, very, classic, whatever that would be, hundreds of years ago, Italian architecture and design. The library, I was looking at some pictures of the library. It's got gold leather walls. So it's like gold embossed leather. And this is all the way back to like the 18th century. So a lot of like classic architecture and touches from way back when. The property officially opened in 2013, but they kept a lot of the decor and all the period pieces. So it's not, it's going to have that real classic luxury feel to it. This is one of the few places with a private dock. So it says most palaces in Venice don't have direct access to the Grand Canal. But Aman Venice does actually have its own private dock. So it makes arrival, supposed to be very smooth, easy, private, luxurious. So, if you're trying to avoid crowds and things like that, you've got a private boat dock. They do have some Michelin-starred dining. I'm not even going to try and say the guy's name, Norbert something. But it's a Michelin-starred dining establishment there. So that looks really cool. This is a property, because it is so small and exclusive, it's regularly visited by, celebrities, politicians, and, high profile guests. Like that's kind of their specialty. It's a small property, so you're not going to run into a lot of people while you're here. Trying to think what else. The room's kind of similar, probably similar to Gritti Palace. It's got some of that classic decor. It's not, it's older luxury, right? So, lots of the patterns and textures and things like that, versus like an ultra modern looking property, but it looks really cool. Again, like this was probably is and was out of my budget when I visited Venice. I'd love to check it out at some point, but I think that you're looking at 3,000 plus per night on average here. So it's definitely up there.
Yeah, I've got the average rate pulling in at 27.30.
Okay, cheaper than I thought. Bargain.
Sure. That's a tough pill to swallow. This site says 2,400, so see, they're around there. So one thing I will say, Gritti Palace does also have a private dock, because I need to defend my my property over here. And then Gritti Palace is actually right on the orange line if you look at the public transit boat maps as well, right on the Grand Canal. I think I like the exterior of the Aman Venice a little bit better. The Gritti Palace building is a little more subtle. I think the Amman looks more grand. I will say, looking at the interior photos of the Aman Venice looks like what a proper person living in the 1500s would decorate their mansion, and like Gritti Palace looks more like a manic self-expressionist uh, design the room. So that definitely is some difference there, I think, depending on your preference. I like both. I think the Gritti Palace is a little more fun for me, where like this is kind of like the Amman Venice almost just looks like a restored museum. And I don't mean that in like a bad way, but it looks very, what is Italian, like diplomats or Italian royalty living in the 1500s look like? This is what the Amman looks like. It just took that page out of my imagination. I think they're both pretty interesting. I think price wise, I'd have a hard time going the extra
Yeah, I would
$1,000 a
definitely, I would
night.
agree on that. I would agree on that.
Yeah. Especially just because I think in Venice you're going to be out walking a lot and doing things. If you're looking for a retreat in Venice, I don't really know why you're staying in Venice probably, but no judgment if you are. Then maybe consider. But I think if you're going to be out and active a lot, the extra $1,000 is probably pretty tough to swallow there.
I feel like a lot of times with Amman, it's well, I mean, we've talked about a few different Amman properties, but I mean, you're definitely paying for it. It's not one where if you're budget conscious, you're probably going to be shopping for an Amman stay.
That's true. Just throwing it out there. But I like it. I think those are two strong Venice properties. We are going to go all the way to the capital. All right, guys. So moving on from Venice, we're going to the capital of Rome. I've got Hotel d'Inghilterra, which, apologies to you Italians if I've said this roughly incorrectly. This is one of the more affordable options on my list, but I really, really like this hotel. I had some clients stay here, I guess last year now in 2024, and they raved about this property. It's built in 1845. It is in probably the best location you can be in Rome. It's right in like the big fashion shopping district. It also was built it was built in the 15th century. That whole area was known for like the best cities, hotels, and like foreign visitors at the time. And the international communities were all kind of right here. It is adjacent to the Via Borgo. Oh, I almost had it. Borgognora. Via Borgognora. Borgognora. Man, and my Italian's a little bit better sometimes. Borgognona. That's what I was looking for. Borgognona. I watch a lot of Serie A soccer, and usually my Italian, I can pull most things from that, but that one was a rough one. Yeah. Borgognona, which is the historic street known for really high-end shopping. In 1845, the Palazzo di Tortina's guest house was then converted into this hotel. So this is actually just a guest house. It became very popular with British tourists and visitors. And interestingly, this is another hotel that they have a lot of documentation of Ernest Hemingway spending time there, as well as Mark Twain. They did a big renovation in 2008, which they actually reduced the room count in the hotel, which is not something you see a lot in like, commercialization of hotels. They reduced the room sizes to 80. And they also kind of have like renovated this intentionally as like it looking like an older home. They brought in tons of chandeliers and hand-blown glass from Venice, from Murano, the island that does all the hand-blown glass there. Most of the modern fabrics and amenities were all sourced from Italy as well, which I thought was really cool. I couldn't find a total price on the renovations they did, but they do have only one restaurant, which is a downside, but you're right on the Spanish Steps. So if you know Rome and the Spanish Steps, you're like right there. So I think you can walk out the door and find hundreds of thousands of dining options. My clients did really love the cocktail bar on property, which also looks like it seconds as a British restaurant. So take that as what you will when you're in town, but I don't think it takes away from the Italian charm of this property at all. The average nightly rate here is $600 a night. I think there's a lot of higher end and nicer options in Rome, but I found this one I felt like I really liked A, the location, and B, the price, and then C, I think it really blends some of that more like what you're looking for, Italian vibe of like, it's an old guest house of a wealthy family that's been converted. And I just think that's cooler than staying in some, newly built structure that, anyone could put up anywhere. That's really it. I think last note, it's part of the small luxury and hotels brand. So if you are a Hilton person these days, you can at least throw down a Hilton card. If you got Hilton status, earn 12x on a property here. There's not a lot of translatable benefits there, but something to keep in mind. And yeah, that's another property. I think if I was headed to Rome, that's where I would be.
Sounds like a good one. And I like the price point. It's pretty good. I think mine's going to be a little bit pricier than that, but kind of funny. Your hotels have been stayed at by Ernest Hemingway. This one actually pops up as a hideaway for celebrities over the years, including stars like George Clooney. So we'll see if this continues as I keep going. I am going to be talking about a hotel. This is a Rocco Forte collection hotel. Hopefully I'm going to say it right. It is Hotel de Russie, Russie. It was actually built in 1818, and it became one of the most fashionable hotels in Rome at the time. And the name actually came because of its popularity among Russian visitors. So particularly members of the Russian imperial family and nobility that visited Rome in the 19th century. So lots of Russian royalty, I guess, staying here. So thus the name Hotel de Russie or de Russie. So other fun fact about this hotel, back in the early 1900s, Pablo Picasso actually lived in the hotel for a while working on costumes for a play or a ballet, sorry. So I thought that was kind of cool. It closed down, renovated, and then reopened back in 2000 under the Rocco Forte hotel collection. So kind of a neat history, just between all the Russian piece of it, Picasso, and now modern times you got George Clooney staying there, so that's kind of cool. Some of the fun facts about this one are some good information. It is a really great location. It's right between the Spanish Steps in Piazza del Popolo. So really good location for, visiting landmarks and things in Rome. I mean, pretty much a lot of the big stuff is very close by. So Spanish Steps, lots of shopping, Trevi Fountains and the Pantheon it says 15-minute walk away. So really good location from what it seems. As far as the decor and everything, it's nothing over the top. It looks like the rooms look very comfortable. The decor is, I don't want to say neutral. You're not going to have feelings about it one way or the other. They just look like very nice hotel rooms. They look like decent size rooms. I did a quick search on pricing in April. It looked like about $1,500, $1,600 a night. So that's a pretty popular time to go. So I imagine off season, you could find some better pricing and things like that. One cool fact about this hotel, similar to the last hotel, it does have a secret garden, and they call it Giardino Segreto, which I guess means secret garden in Italian. So it's just like this, little oasis in the middle of the property, kind of to get away from the hustle and bustle of the city. So I thought that was kind of cool.
The garden actually looks really sweet. Looking at it now, I will say an interesting fact. It's clicking around. I think your hotel definitely has better amenities. The spa here looks nice. The rooftop restaurant is really cool. Now, mind you, our hotels are within 700 meters of each other. So, we're 7-8 minute walk apart from each other. So I think that goes a lot to say that the location is great, that we've managed to pick hotels so close to each other. Now they did in that renovation in my hotel add a spa and gym, but it's Mediterranean, and I would say nothing to write home about. When I click around looking at the amenities in your property, especially with this garden, and it looks like you can do some of the, they have some big dining tables with a covered garden and things that put together. I like it. I definitely see where the double price point is coming from in your property over mine.
Well, then again, I guess it depends what you're doing, right? If you're there to see the sights and everything and obviously your hotel's still very nice. So it's all right, when do you justify the extra price? I don't know. If you're going to spend more time at the property doing spa stuff and things like that, maybe.
Sure. I do see what you mean though about the rooms. They're not really, It's hard to have an opinion either way about them. They're very like neutral colors, neutral design. It's
Yeah, like
like
the
this.
furniture, nothing like just jumps out at you. It's just
Yeah, I think I would stay here and forget what it looked like a month later.
yep, yep. I would
Not in a
agree.
bad way, but it's just like, okay. The spa does look a little fun, I will say, from the pictures I'm seeing. So if you're a spa person, might, yeah, do some more research on that side. All right. I think now we're off to Florence, which is interestingly somewhere I've never been. So
Really,
I don't
I'm
know
actually
how.
surprised.
I've been to a lot of obscure places in Italy. I somehow have just never been to Florence. We are going to the Four Seasons Hotel Firenze. Firenze. It is an interesting Four Seasons in that I looked at it on Google Street View. It is the most unassuming entrance of a hotel I think I've ever seen. Like you could walk up past this place and not even have a guess where you were.
I honestly think that's a theme in Florence because when I stayed in Florence, I literally drove past my hotel and had no idea where the entrance to the hotel was.
Okay, well, maybe that's just the goal in Florence is to make you not know where your hotel is. Seems like a fun game, I guess, if you're not a tourist. Now, in Rome, one of my big focuses was I wanted to be in the thick of everything. And this Four Seasons Florence kind of flips that on its head a little bit. However, my perception of never going to Florence is that it's a lot more overrun with tourists and that central downtown area gets really packed. So I felt like the Four Seasons Florence being a little outside of the city center itself probably isn't as big of a problem. The other interesting thing is with it being a little off-centered from the city, there's a 10-acre garden inside this hotel, which is pretty cool. I mean, when you think 10 acres is a lot. Acres is small compared to like if you're thinking like Central Park, right? I think is 800 something acres. But I mean, a acre park in an older Italian city is huge. And the fact that it's private and for the hotel, I think really says something. What really steals the show for me about the Four Seasons Florence, though, literally looks like a museum. Like everything about this hotel just looks like you are living inside a museum in like the best way. And I don't know. I've always wanted to live inside a museum, I guess. But the rooms are not quite as maximalist as Gritti Palace, but certainly not as subtle as like the Aman Venice. Some of the rooms have these gorgeous, like Michelangelo looking like paintings on the ceiling. You got these like triple, quadruple stacked crown moldings, and a few of the suites. It just looks really fun. You've got if you just even click around through the room types, there's so many different iterations and versions of the hotel. The like lobby and coffee area where you eat breakfast has these gorgeous statues and in this middle of this like huge archway property. And I was like, I could see myself going to Florence, staying at this hotel, and maybe never leaving the hotel for a week. Now, I wouldn't actually do that because I've never been to Florence, but if I had already been to Florence, like I think I could justify a whole trip just to come and just soak in this hotel, especially with the big garden. I can run around 10 acres, no problem. But like if you really appreciate interior design or Italian history, or man, I could probably click on pictures of this hotel for hours. Like all the rooms have different wallpapers, furniture, even the hallways just look, I don't know, they're just breathtaking to me personally. And I mean, who doesn't want to just stay in? I just think you're just completely immersed in this just incredible hotel. Like there's not a single picture of this hotel where I'm like, oh, this part of the hotel's meh. Um, so I mean, that's kind of where I got with that. To me, you're like literally just sleeping inside a museum. It's the largest hotel on my list at 116 rooms, which it's not
It's
very
bigger than I
big.
would have expected.
Yeah, it is a little bit big of a
It doesn't
hotel.
look that big.
It doesn't. I think a lot of the rooms are pretty small, yeah, outside of the suites. And your average price here is about 1,500 a night, which I do think is rough being, a city hotel. I think I would at least try and squeeze a night or two here, like in Florence, like stay somewhere more basic and tour hunt all day. But there's not a lot of hotels that make me be like, I would plan a trip around this hotel. Or actually, that's not true. I plan a lot of trips around hotels. There's not a lot of hotels where I'm like, man, I would modify how I'm staying somewhere I want to go just to make this hotel work. And I think this hotel is that for me.
So I'm looking at some pictures. The gardens look pretty awesome. The pool looks really neat. I'm reading an article right now from 2012. So you could tell me what you may have seen while you were researching this property. So in 2012, which I think is after they possibly reopened or renovation, something along those lines, um, they say the Royal Suite is considered the most expensive room in Europe. So this is as of 2012. So, now we're
Okay.
13 years later. At the time, it was almost 20,000 euros per night. So I can't imagine what that may run now. But it said the breathtaking Royal Suite, which runs a mere almost 20,000 euros per night. It's a Baroque explosion of vaulted ceilings, endless rooms, and gilded galore. Oh, looks pretty fascinating.
I totally missed that, but you can't even look. I was like, I'm going to look up the price real quick. It is please call to book. So it's a
Yep.
big,
Oh, you know it's nice then.
yeah. Okay. Let's see. So, you can do 3 adults, which seems not reasonable, but it is 2,500 square feet. It's on the main floor of the palazzo. It is uniquely decorated to respect the historical value of the suite. It comes with 1 marble bathroom and 1 guest powder room.
That does not seem
Not,
very good for what's probably $40,000 a night now.
yeah. Let me tell you, the pictures look really incredible. The text description does not sound the best. It looks like there's a mini grand piano in here. You got a full study. I might settle for a cheaper room than this, but
I'd probably do that.
that is good to know. I'm going to shoot you a link real quick, which is not really great podcasting, but look how incredible this hotel hallway, though, in this room. It's like the big picture of the property. And maybe I'll put a link in the show notes if anyone wants to see it. But that first opening picture is, look, the hallway of your hotel room.
Yeah, if that's your hotel room, that's pretty fascinating.
Yeah. So I will try and remember to throw a little link in there. And I think it has a virtual tour of the room as well. So if you want to look at Europe's most expensive, it has a nice 3D virtual tour. If you want to look at
for the listeners to know
expensive.
what this hallway looks like, just the seating alone, there's multiple couches and chairs lining this wide hallway. So there's probably seating for 10 people just in the hallway of the hotel room.
Probably.
So this would be a good place to throw a little get together.
It's probably, and you can't see, but on the virtual tour I can look up, and the whole ceiling has painted like Michelangelo style paintings on it and these big chandeliers.
Yeah,
the windows are probably 15 feet tall, and then the ceiling's like a vaulted 30-foot ceiling with these crazy crown moldings. And this is in your hotel room.
This is crazy.
This is crazy. Your hotel room. So listen, if you got the budget, this is where I'm staying. This is my post Powerball hotel room.
All right. Well, mine's going to be probably, hopefully a little bit cheaper based on that, but we are going to the St. Regis in Florence. So I really like the location of the St. Regis. It's right on the river and looks back over, it's got great views looking over the river. You're in walking distance to Piazza del Signori, the Duomo, and the Uffizi Gallery. So you're in good location for doing touristy stuff. This was originally built back in the 1400s. It was the home of Florentine aristocracy. So riverside location made it a prime location for noble families. By the 19th century, it was transformed into Grand Hotel of Florence. And then finally in 2011, after extensive renovations, it became the St. Regis Florence. So what we have today. Just kind of talking about St. Regis in general, this still has all the typical things you'd expect from the St. Regis. You've got butler service. You've got the evening sabering ritual, which is really cool. I think I always enjoy that as part of a stay at a St. Regis. I think that's awesome. They do have frescoed suites. So many of the suites have original 18th and 19th century frescoes that they have not touched. So you may luck out and have a suite that has some really amazing artwork in it, which I think is really cool. It's kind of neat to see, and ties back to the history of the property. Trying to think what else we got here. They do a private wine tasting and truffle hunting experience, which looked really cool to me. I think that'd be something, if I was going to stay here, I would try and make that happen. Looked like a kind of a neat thing to do. I love Florence, so I know like the Four Seasons, that's one you may not want to leave. St. Regis, probably an awesome property as well, but great location to get out and explore the city. Tons of stuff to see here. The food was amazing. Florence is probably one of my, I don't know, top 3 or 5 favorite cities I've ever visited. Just the history, the food, the atmosphere. Like I loved it. I thought it was pretty fantastic. I would never drive in this city again. That was probably the most miserable experience of my life. We rented a car, and like I said before, I missed where our hotel was, so I drove past it. I honestly didn't know if I was on a street or a pedestrian walkway. I had no idea. And finally, the second time around, somebody from the hotel came out and like waved me down out front and helped me. And I was just like, just take my car. I don't want to see it till I leave. But Florence is pretty fantastic. Don't ever drive there. If you can, stay at the Four Seasons, stay at the St. Regis. I think these are both really good options.
Have you stayed at the St. Regis?
I have not. I've walked past it, but I did not stay there. I stayed at the Il Tornabuoni, which is also a really great property and a really cool location, if you can find it.
And that's a Hyatt property, correct? Like Unbound Collection?
It is still Hyatt. Yep. I was trying to think it was
Okay.
SLH, but it is Hyatt.
Very cool. Yeah, I've done that as well. Actually, I don't know as much in Italy, but there's definitely a lot of questionable, like you're driving, and if there's not a car in front of you, you're like, am I supposed to be here? But that's kind of Europe in general. I feel like they just make it look like cars are unwelcome everywhere and then just hope you can figure it out. Like I had the hardest time harder than Italy was Amsterdam, because there's like the road, the plane, and the train, and then like I'd follow people, and sometimes they'd be on the train road, sometimes in the regular road, sometimes I felt like in the bike lane. So when I was on my
Amsterdam is
own,
crazy because you have to have certain like placards to be able to drive in certain lanes at certain times, and then in the evenings they force all the cars outside of the city, I guess, to allow for more pedestrian traffic.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
Amsterdam's a
just
mess.
kind of winged it a little bit, and I didn't get in trouble. But I do feel that, especially in Europe. In Italy, I didn't run into too many issues, but I will say I stayed at the Park Hyatt Milan in the Via. I can't believe I can't remember the name of that hotel. Another hotel that was close by, and like just driving around in that downtown part of Milan where everything is, it was just like you essentially drove into what looked like a pedestrian walkway, but that was also somehow the valet of the hotel. But everyone was walking through there because the Park Hyatt Milan is right at the entrance of the Galleria Mall. Right. And so they just have these arbitrary posts, and they're like, pull in. And I'm like trying to pull in. There's like 600 people walking around. And I'm like, okay, that's
how I felt in Florence.
yeah. It's like, we got a lot of faith in a lot of people here, including me driving. But okay. It seems like that's a universal Italian problem. I do enjoy driving in Italy, weirdly. There's far less speed cameras than other countries in Europe, but what can you do? I think Italy's the only country. I did that 5-country Europe trip. Italy was the only country I did not get a ticket from in the mail.
Okay, that's funny.
Team Italy over here.
No wonder we're focused on Italy. It's one of the few you can go back to.
Yeah, it's true. Perfect. Let's move on to, I think this is where our trips kind of diverge.
So now we can, where are we going next?
So I'm taking us to Tuscany. I think it is the Rosewood Castillon del Bosco. I feel pretty good about that one. It is a gorgeous property in Tuscany. It's 42 suites and 11 one-of-a-kind villas. Everything is amazing about this hotel except the price. Let me tell you. It is actually on a UNESCO-listed natural park, the Val d'Orcia in Brunello, which is a winemaking region. The owner of the hotel has his own winery on site, which is pretty cool. And it is a huge 5,000-acre estate, which is just, humongous. Mind you, you're out a little bit in the middle of nowhere. It also has an 18-hole golf course. There is a cooking school where you can learn to make Tuscan dishes with organic ingredients from the gardens. There's an incredible spa. You've got this really gorgeous kind of picturesque infinity pool if you pull it up like on the property. And then they do some interesting activities there, like you can go truffle hunting excursions. They'll do helicopter transfers if you don't want to make the drive out to this property. The restaurant on property, the Restaurante Campo del Drago, is a 2 Michelin star restaurant, which, pretty nice to have a 2 Michelin star restaurant just sitting inside your hotel. It was rated the #1 hotel in the world by Travel and Leisure for 2022. So I do think that's a pretty big statement one way or the other. Now, this hotel is actually originally built by the Ferragamo family as like some personal estate, and they're still tied into the property from what I understand. From what I gathered, the winery on property is still like theirs in some fashion. The details get real hit or miss, I feel like. But essentially it was Massimo Ferragamo put this whole property together. The Rosewood is now taken it over, managing it as this hotel. And there's no non-suites here as well. So when you think about the pricing, you also got to consider that, right? You're not paying over $2,000 a night to be put into like a 300 square foot hotel room, which can happen to you in a lot of places in, Italy or just in Europe in general, right?
In Europe in general, right?
Yeah, you can be paying out the wazoo and then you're like, oh yes, here is your shack for the night, sir. So that is something that can be avoided. The hotel does require a 2-night minimum when I was playing around with a lot of things, but I feel like that doesn't really matter because it's so remote. I don't know why you would go for that quickly. The standard room, the junior suite, comes in at right around 600 square feet. It's like 550 when you convert it out, which that's the base. If you step into the second side room, which is I think the Borgo suites, you get into 840 square feet, and then all of a sudden the terrace square feet, you're already plus 1,000 a night. And then you can go up from there. I think the largest villa on property it comes with like a home theater, guest house, pool house, private tennis court. Let me convert this real quick. It is 610 square meters. So which I was like, I can't do square meters that well. It is 6,500 feet.
Well, 6,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you got a 600 square foot villa with tennis courts, your private infinity pool. It looks really cool. There's like old vintage Ferrari stuff tucked away. You've got this full kitchen. So I think they could provide anything you wanted. And honestly, the villa for the nights I had plugged in was only 14,000 a night, 14,000 euros
Basically
a
free?
night. Let's not say basically free. I mean, you've got a 6-bedroom villa, right?
If you're splitting it up, it's not the end of the world.
I mean, that's really, if you can find 6 guests or 6 couples, however you math that out, you're paying base room rates for this private 6-bedroom villa. How about this? I think that they could easily put a $30,000-$40,000 price tag on that, and I don't think people would think it was overpriced. So the fact that they're offering it at $14,000, I took that as pretty well valued. I went through the whole calendar. I want to say the average price was right around $2,200 a night. However, if you're in the aspiring luxury property space, when this property got into the off season, I found some nights that were sub 700 euros a night. And like, if you're going to go to Tuscany and you've got flexibility, I would jump at the chance to be at this property for under 700 euros a night. Especially booking through someone like us or, someone that can provide Rosewood, you get the extra benefits, the property credit, free breakfast. I think you're in the ball game here. And then you're eating dinner you're eating dinner at a 2 Michelin star restaurant every night. Obviously going to come with some expenses, but one thing I do like about Rosewood, and I think I say this every time we talk about Rosewood, they do F&B so well and so good, which is what made me pick this hotel. Because the problem with Tuscany is you're remote, and food and beverage is so hard because there's hotels where I'm like, this food and beverage is great. And then you get on Facebook or you read on TripAdvisor and people act like it is 3 Michelin star food and people act like it was worse than Burger King. And so like, there's just such an opinion spread on Rosewood food and bev. It's hard to know, but Rosewood, Four Seasons has a baseline food and bev that is always really good. I think Rosewood's food and bev is just in another stratosphere constantly. I mean, which I think is verified by the fact that they have a 2 Michelin star restaurant on site. So I think if you're going to be remote for a couple of days, you're going to be in Tuscany, you're on a winery, what else do you need, right? You got a luxury hotel, maybe a 6,000 square foot house. But that's my pitch. And like I said, $2,200 a night average. It definitely can get way up there into the 3,000-4,000 you're going during peak. But man, if you can make non-peak work and get out there for less than €1,000 a night, I think that's an amazing deal. And if you, I don't know if you looked at pictures and stuff of the property, but it really is kind of breathtaking from the outsides. The inside of the rooms aren't as like intricate or ornate, I think, as some of these other properties we've had, because the building isn't from the 1200s or 1400s like some of these other places. But it definitely has like a very Italian countryside vibe that I was really into.
I'm going to check it out. All right, so we went from Tuscany. I am going to jump to Lake Como. This is going to be Grand Hotel Victoria in Lake Como, or on Lake Como in the town of Menaggio. I've actually stayed here before, back in 2023, maybe fall 23, I think is when I stayed here. And so originally I was staying for one night. I added a second night. I loved it. I'm actually going back here this coming summer. I'm going to say this is probably in my top 3 to 5 favorite hotels I've ever stayed at. I'll give you a little bit why. So for one, this hotel the building was originally built back in the 1800s, right on the lake, to really, like, we're not talking like the 1400s like we were talking before, but 1800s. So it is still an older kind of nice architecture, but they renovated the whole property and it reopened in 2021. So it has all the modern amenities and features that you would expect in a modern luxury hotel, but sitting right on Lake Como in a old Italian lakeside village. You've got, the rooms are really nicely renovated, so fairly modern feel to the rooms. We stayed in like the extended wing of this room, or extended like building behind the main building. And I think these are the newer section, because the rooms were really large. They're not small like a typical Italian hotel room you would expect. Like these were 500 plus square feet probably hotel rooms, so they were really large. The fitness center here was fantastic. I mean, it was as nice as you would expect at any new luxury hotel. So that's something that I find severely lacking in most European hotels. It's an afterthought. Typically a fitness center is like a 500 square foot hotel room that they just threw a treadmill and a couple weights in, where this is a full on, really nice fitness center with great glass views looking out over the pool, which I thought was really cool. This hotel is right on the lake, so you can walk down to the lake. It's got a private dock. They can arrange, a private boat to drive you around the lake, which we did, which was really cool for the day. Since I visited, they opened up a beach club. So I don't know what else you'd call it, but a beach club right on the lake. So it's got this pool that looks out over the lake. You've got lounge chairs. I'm really looking forward to checking that out. It looks awesome, like a great day to spend, whether with the kids or without kids, just chilling, enjoying the lake, enjoying the views, things like that. My favorite part of this property, I'm a big spa person. I love spas. I love getting massages, but I really like the ancillary spa stuff, right? So the cold rooms and the saunas and hot tubs and things like that. This is probably the nicest spa that I've ever visited. I'm hoping we can pop up some videos of it, but there is a pretty large pool in the middle, and the pool has like sections in it. So all different hydrotherapy and different jets and all different stuff that you can push buttons, and it does all these different incredible things. And then you've got a snow room, and you've got a steam room and a sauna. And just an incredible number of features. There's like foot baths the foot bath experience that you actually walk through. So it goes like hot water, cold water, hot water, cold water as you're walking through. It's really cool. And one of the neat things is they do in the morning, I think they still do this. There was a couple hours from like 9 to 11 or something like that they actually allow kids to go in and use the facility. So my kids thought it was fantastic, like just going in, getting to enjoy the jets and everything like that. So if you stay here, you have to visit the spa. It's amazing. So that was one of my favorite parts of the visit. The dining was great. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. They've got a restaurant that looks out over Lake Como. So that's really cool. You are walking distance to like the little village of Menaggio, and there's tons of really good little restaurants and spots you can grab wine and stuff like that. Also pretty easy access to walk over to the ferry. So then you can go to Bellagio or any of the other big name villages on Lake Como. So really great location, fabulous property. If you're going to that area, I highly recommend this property.
Did you ever take the ferry when you were there?
I did, yeah. So we took the ferry to go to Bellagio. I think it was Bellagio we went to. But yeah, we did take the ferry. It was cool.
So have only stayed at the Vista Palazzo Como, which is it's actually in Como. Man, the line for the ferry, we stayed near the ferry. I never actually took it because we had a car and I drove around. However, I will caveat that with I drove all the way to Menaggio one day. My daughter was asleep in the car, so it wasn't the end of the world, but I could not find anywhere to park and went back to my hotel. So driving up to Menaggio is not the easiest we were like, we'll go get some ice cream or something. And we drove all the way up there and then turned around. I had a blast driving along the lake and through all these roads, but it is not the easiest place to just bop about in a car. But the ferry looked like a mess when I was there, but I was there over a summer weekend.
I will say, now Menaggio is a smaller, like I would imagine like the actual town of Como is probably a lot higher density of people. So where we were, I mean, it didn't seem that bad. I mean, we did 2 or 3 different, I know we did Bellagio, maybe one other place, but it wasn't crazy.
How did you get to the property?
I actually drove there. So
okay.
I as well rented a car, drove there. We didn't drive at all for the 2 days we were there. We just parked the car and then either walked or took the ferry around. But yeah, we drove there. So on the way back, yeah, kind of the same thing, drove all along the lake. And I mean, it was a beautiful drive. I don't think this would be an easy location to get to like by train necessarily. You'd probably have to go to another bigger stop around the lake and then cab or something to get here. I'm not sure if there's a train stop close by.
Yeah, I would agree. I do really like Lake Como. I actually was really trying to find a property that I wanted to talk about on Lake Garda. But I just, there wasn't anything that was like super splendid, but if you've already been to Lake Como, Lake Garda is another place to really consider. There's not as many properties. It's not as touristy, but it's also really pretty. I've had some people stay over, but I do like Lake Como. I do want to go back for sure.
And I think one thing to caveat with Lake Como, a lot of the hotels, this one as well, are seasonal. So you're not going to go there in the winter for the most part. Like this hotel right now is closed. It opens back up March 22nd. So I imagine if you were to go to Como, like a lot of the places in Lake Como in the winter, it's probably dead. There's probably not much going on there.
That is a good point. And then do you have an average hotel price for here? I might be able to try and find one.
I'd have to pull one up quick. I didn't.
Or what's your pricing guess for this place most of the year? How about that?
I'm guessing in like the 1,500 range is what I remember.
Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing an average at about $16 a night.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I will say I do regret going to Lake Como and not staying there a little bit. Although our hotel was fantastic, but it definitely lacked a little bit on the amenity side. But it's the only 5-star hotel in Como, so that is kind of cool.
Okay.
But they did great. I will say, like, we valeted our car there every day. I didn't even have a valet tag. Every employee knew who I was, knew what I drove. Grabbed from the streets. The touch points at our hotel were really nice, but it sounds like you had a lot of more like cool amenities and such, which I'm pretty jealous of.
Yeah. And it was only 2 nights. So I'm really looking forward to go. We're doing 5 nights this summer. So, when we were there, it was like check-in day, walk around the village, next day, see as much as we could. We did the boat tour around the lake, and then we took the ferry over to, I think it was Bellagio. I can't remember all the towns we went to, but it was like go, where I'm looking forward to like 5 days, like being able to spend more time at the spa, do the beach club, like actually, take it a little bit slower.
Cool. And when are you doing that trip?
That heading over there in June. So
perfect. So
also looking forward to checking out like good season.
Yeah. Also, I was going to say maybe this summer we can do a full episode on it too. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right. I'm going all the way to a place called Porto Ercole. Ercole?
This was the place we'd never heard of before, right?
Yeah. So I'd never even heard of this place. I actually originally stumbled upon this. So technically it's also in Tuscany, but it's on the water. I was trying to find something that wasn't the Amalfi Coast or, Sicily or somewhere that like, you're like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. This hotel is in leading hotels of the world. So it is still a chain, but it's a unique history. It's also on the cheaper side, which I do like. It has 2 restaurants. One is a 1-star restaurant. This Porto Ercole seems really cool. From what I gathered, it is a kind of more locals vibe area. Like you get a lot of people that are staying there that are Italian. It is Hotel Pellicano. Hotel 2 or Roman numeral 2 Pellicano, Hotel Pellicano. I really liked this property. It's 50 rooms. The history behind this hotel is a little interesting. It is an American socialite woman who was dating a British fighter pilot, decided to make this their private romantic hideaway in this cove called Monte Argentinero, Monte Argentinero. I had this one down earlier. I was practicing it. Argentario. Yeah. Monte Argentario, which is a place really cool. Apparently, it was full of Europe's high society and hotel royalty before it was ever turned into an actual hotel, like when they had built it in 1965. It was transformed into this Hotel Pellicano in 1979 by this guy, Roberto Cessio. He fell in love with the property. He wanted to maintain it and create the same welcoming atmosphere. Today, his daughter runs it, who is also she's the creative director, CEO of this hotel group. And I will say, the thing that stands out to me most about this hotel is it's just so well curated and done. And I think her as the creative director, it's very clearly, passionately designed and built, where it does not feel like any kind of chain or corporate hotel. I can't really explain how you get that feeling. There's just really this family passion, things are done in a little over the top in a way that if you were a chain hotel, even I think a luxury hotel, you would never do things that way. You know what I mean? There's these big ivy covered walls with flowers on top on the entrance and just things that practically you would never do as a more chainy hotel. It does have a nice beach club. There's no sand out there, but you've got these nice cliffs where they've laid out benches and umbrellas. They've got a little dock so you can pop into the water. The whole hotel's really nestled into these big, it's olive trees are surrounding it and rosemary and lavender garden. And so it looks like it has a lot of privacy in this little area. You get 2 restaurants. One is a 1 Michelin star property. The views are incredible. And it's almost imagine the Amalfi Coast before it was the Amalfi Coast. It seems very private. There's not a lot of stuff around. If you look at a zoomed out, area of this cove or, peninsula, whatever this little area is, there's nothing much else there. So I think you're taking the Amalfi Coast and making it a little more private. And then you've got this Porto Ercole that's pretty close. That's, I think, got enough stuff in town to keep you fulfilled for a couple of days. You've got all the basic amenities here, a really nice pool. I read some good reviews on the spa. There's tennis courts and some other things on the top of the property. There's some villas split from the main building. And this is also on the cheaper side. My average nightly cost here is $700 a night. Nothing to dislike there. And then the cool thing about this hotel is you're kind of in between Rome and Pisa, is your location wise. So you fly into Rome. I think it's right around a 2.5 drive to the hotel. I didn't necessarily look at what is the exact closest airport and stuff. I'm sure there's probably something a little more, locally that you could make work. And some reviews. I found more than 4 people mention this, I found some comments on Reddit, I want to say, and a few other places, TripAdvisor. Everyone complimented how well the gift shop was. They said I saw 4 or 5 people say we spent so much money at the gift shop. It's not as overpriced as normal gift shops, and it had, instead of junk, the coolest stuff. And I don't know how true it is, but then in Reddit, someone was making comments that were hey, I live here, in Porto Ercole. The gift shop is all curated and by the daughter who now runs and owns the property. So I think her good taste is also translated into this gift shop, if true. And if you like playing tennis, your daughter plays tennis, right?
Yeah.
The view from this tennis court, I think, is out of this world. If you want to pull it up, it's it's above the hotel on a cliff, and you just see the entire Mediterranean Ocean from the tennis court. And I was yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. So, I just liked it because it's in an area that I hadn't really heard of a ton of. It's a place that I think I would much rather go here than the Amalfi Coast personally, be a little more remote and private. And you're $700 a night average price. So it's not too bad. And I do like some of these. I think when you can find like a independent, truly independent family run hotel that's run well, I think that's really hard to beat because I think it's done very personally, and just it is a 5-star hotel. I did see some people, I will say, disputing its 5-starness. People were like, it's a really nice 4-star hotel, and I'm like, okay, well, what's really the difference? If you really want to get into it, I don't know if it's going to be at the same level as an Amman, maybe perhaps, but I think if you're tolerant of a very acceptable service and standard hotel, it's also reflected in the price, right? I think the
I was
Aman
going to
Venice
say,
we
and the
said was
price, yep.
it's things are priced how they're priced for a reason. But anyway, I thought it was a unique hotel. I was glad to bring in something, and like I said, there's tons of documentation of like all the Hollywood stars of the '60s hanging out here, like Charlie Chaplin, Henry Fonda, Slim Aarons, and so forth. It doesn't excite me that Charlie Chaplin stayed there 70 years ago, but some people can be really into that. We're going pretty long here, Jamie, but what is your last property? I'm excited to hear about.
Well, I'm going to sell you on why you should go to the Amalfi Coast and spend
Man,
a significantly bigger chunk of money on this hotel. So
wow.
this is
So you
a
want me
hotel.
to take less privacy, more money, and more people, huh?
Yeah. All right. So
Okay, hit me.
this is a Belmont hotel. This is Hotel Caruso. And this is in the town of, if I'm saying this right, Revelo. So you're getting a little bit off the beaten path. So you're not in Amalfi or Positano. So you're going to have a little bit less crowds. But Ravello looks like probably not quite as tranquil as, the place that you were just talking about, but not quite as busy and as much going on as, some of the more popular towns. What's really cool about this property, it is perched like up on the cliffs, and it has a infinity pool that has views like no other. That to me that's what really drew me to this property when I was looking through pictures and everything. The outdoor space, the infinity pool, looking out over the coast and looking out over the ocean looks just amazing. This may be our oldest property too. So this was built in the 1100s. It was originally a medieval palace, and then over the years got transformed into this luxury hotel with the last, seems like I don't know if it's the last renovation, but the major renovation occurring in 2000, where it was really transformed into the hotel it is today. It still has tons of original frescoes, vaulted ceilings, kind of maintaining that original architecture. Some really cool things about this property, though. I cannot find a picture, but the description alone sounds really cool. There's supposedly a hidden tunnel and secret garden that leads out to a place that you have some gardens and views out over the coast. I cannot find pictures of this, but I keep searching. Hopefully I can find it so we can post them. But the description sounds really cool. So you go through like this tunnel or passageway and you find the secret garden and you've got great views from there. Another cool thing with this property is you get a complimentary daily boat cruise along the Amalfi Coast. So they do a sunset cruise, which is included with your stay. Go down, cruise the coast, enjoy the sunset, which is really cool. Again, it's kind of similar to your property. You've got some, celebrity history. So Humphrey Bogart, Jackie Kennedy, Mick Jagger have all stayed at this property. But again, I think for me, the big selling feature is this infinity pool that looks out over, the amazing views. Tons of gardens. They've got some kind of go along with the included boat tour. They can do some different private excursions to Capri and Positano and things like that. Bring you to some hidden beaches and a few other neat things there. Don't know about the dining. It says gourmet dining, using lots of local cuisine and things like that. I didn't read a ton of reviews on it, but it looks beautiful. I think it's a really cool spot to check out if you're doing the Amalfi Coast. It is significantly more expensive than the one that you just mentioned. So you're looking in the probably 2,000 to 3,000 per night, 2 to 3,000 euro per night range, unless you're going on the tail end of the seasons. Again, I think these properties do close in the off season. So when I was just looking in March, there are some nights that are, 6, 7, 800 euro. But then almost immediately jumps up a couple weeks later to 2,000 euros a night. So if you could sneak in kind of off season, you just want to enjoy the property, there's some deals to be had.
Yeah, I've got an average of 1,600, which also when I click something, it says that wedding packages well over $250,000. So that's a choice. Gonna Hey, listen, if you want to have your wedding here, give us a ring. We'll gladly work you out a room block. My goodness.
They can probably take the secret passageway to do the wedding.
Yeah, maybe you can invite us and we'll make a video in this secret tunnel. Do you know anything about this property? Listen, it looks really cool. I found a photo of the infinity pool that is overlooking the Mediterranean from afar. It might be a life-changing view, I would say. However,
it looks pretty big. That to me is the selling point. I don't know if the cost justifies it, but that was my favorite part of the hotel.
I kind of agree. And I had already been clicking around and finding some stuff, and I just found someone that shot this really great angle of it. And I was like, man, that's incredible. My question is, do they have like a partnership with like a beach club or some kind of beach access that they mentioned? Like that you can, it just seems like it is very high up on the hill.
It does say that they have a private beach in Amalfi. I don't know how you get there. I'm sure they shuttle you down or something like that.
I would hope so.
But it does say they do have a private beach.
Okay, that is very important, I think, then, at that price point. Because I'm like, if you're at that price point and they're just like, good luck beach, like that's kind of rough. So I'm glad. And that view, too, where you see from the pool, it does look like one of the restaurants has like an open air balcony for that view as well. And I just... Man.
So I will say, all right, so I was just reading this. So all stays include scheduled shuttle to Amalfi and Positano, 2-hour boat ride along the coast in the morning, private lounge and umbrella on secluded beach in Amalfi. So you've got your transportation to and from, as well as like reserved umbrella and chairs.
Okay, so this hotel's really doing it all for you, which, at that price point, that's what you would hope for. Man, I wish I actually would have known about this property a little more. I just had I was working on an Amalfi trip with somebody and it might have been a little out of their budget, but I mean, that's nice though. If you think about it, like they were wanting to move hotels every 2 or 3 days to see each place. And I'm like, man, if you got the budget, camp out here, let them shuttle you to Positano, do one day Positano, one day Amalfi, and then go back and forth. Right. And then you're not moving hotels. You got a couple days. You're already getting a water cruise.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it looks cool.
When you think about, one tip or trick when you start getting into these nicer hotels, if you're someone who's going to stay in a $700-800 to $1,000 hotel pretty comfortably, but then you're going to go pay for an umbrella in some of these beach clubs, which are not cheap in Amalfi, and then you're already going to go buy the boat and do the boat tour. You start adding that up, all of a sudden you're probably realistically dropping $1,200-1,300 a day, where it's like, dude, just spend the extra $200, go stay at this hotel and let them do it all for you. Where you're not having to worry about your chair. It sounds like their spot is a little, private on the Amalfi Coast. And that is something to think about, and that's not something you can do every trip. But if you're in one of those special trips, if it's like a milestone birthday or a honeymoon, or you're not the most budget conscious, sometimes eating that extra couple $100 a night to be in a better property that's going to do everything for you is worth it. And this seems like looking at this hotel, it seems like this would be one of those cases, I think. I really didn't think I didn't think you were going to convince me to go to the Amalfi Coast, and I feel very convinced. So, luckily,
it was crazy.
No plan.
I was gonna say, I'm sure you don't want to go here in March. I assume the weather is not ideal. Like this is not a place you want to go. But the end of March, I just pulled a random, like one of the cheap nights, March 27th through the 28th, 560 euros a night, breakfast included. Like that's pretty fantastic. Now, granted, you're probably not going to be able to take advantage of the beach club and things like that, but if you're in the area and you want to check something out, like there's some deals to be had.
Yeah. Average 61 to 53, it says in March. It's not the worst. It's not the best. I mean, you could at least walk around and not be sweating your balls off every day.
This is true. It's more one of those like, hey, like for me, I enjoy checking out a really nice hotel. So if I was in the area and I could grab this for $600 a night, versus 2,500 during the summer, I would do it all day.
I'm with you. I thought there was no way you're going to convince me about Amalfi, and I think I might. All things equal, I might bail on my property and head up to the Amalfi and just let them handle it all. I do really like my hotel Pellicano over here. Okay. Great news for everyone that is still listening, an hour and 15 minutes deep, or we're probably going to chop some time out. So let's just say just over an hour. All 10 of these hotels have something great in common. We can book them for you.
That's right.
Make it happen and get you some extras on top. I think Jamie was just throwing out there something about that Belmont. But whether it's Amman, Four Seasons, Rosewood, some of these independent hotels, we would love to book them for you. Some of the easiest ways to make that happen is you can DM us on social media. I'll get you a booking link. You can follow the link in the bio here. Please give us a follow, Travel Bros Pod, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Give us some love. Book some hotels with us so we can keep just rambling on about hotels in Italy. And if you liked this Italian episode, give us some feedback, because I think what we might do is maybe do a Dolomites episode, an Amalfi episode, maybe a Sicily episode. If we get some good love on Italy, I think we could dig more into the hotels here, because I think the Italian hotel scene has just been transformed and on fire as of late. So I'm very fully comfortable to lean into it. I think we're out of here. Jamie, you are off to Hong Kong tomorrow.
Yeah, less than 24 hours, wheels up.
Can you give us a sneak peek? Where are you staying in Hong Kong?
Yeah, so going to be flying into Hong Kong on Cathay Pacific first class. So I'm really looking forward to check that out. Going to be spending 2 nights at the Ritz, which is the highest hotel pool in the world. Just reopened a couple days ago, so I'm looking forward to check that out. Doing 2 nights Hong Kong, Macau, and then I'm a huge Disney fan, so we'll be spending 2 nights at the Disneyland Hotel at Disneyland Hong Kong. So looking forward to it. Have never been there before. Going to eat tons of dim sum and do lots of gambling. Play some sickbo maybe. See where the day takes us.
Where are you staying in Macau? I think you said the name wrong, but
The Grand Hyatt.
oh, you said the Hong Kong Macau.
Grand Hyatt Macau. I originally had, I think I had the Mandarin Oriental originally booked on a 3rd night free promo.
Okay.
Which I was really looking forward to it, but just schedule wise, when I had to bring it down to 2 nights, the average per night obviously shoots up, and I'm like, I don't know if I can justify it. It was a Friday, Saturday night, and Macau gets, similar to Vegas, pretty pricey on Friday, Saturday night, it seems.
I was going to say the Four Seasons in Macau, I feel like must be
the Grand Hyatt looks really nice.
You're fine. Sorry. I was just going to say, I think the Four Seasons in Macau might be one of the cheapest Four Seasons in the world if you're ever in that part of town.
Don't think for my Friday, Saturday night it was, because I was looking at all the different luxury options and nothing was pricing out very attractive.
I mean, I've seen it.
I'll check it out again, though. I still got time.
I've seen it sub $200 a night before. Like maybe not like
right.
I plugged in.
Now we're going to look. Well, now we're going to look right now. Well,
all right. Oh, well, how about this?
Because for that price, I would probably switch to.
I just plugged in 2 random nights, May 28th to May 30th. So that is a Wednesday to a Friday, but it's $153 a night.
It was the Friday, Saturdays, which killer. I should have planned better. I should have did my first 2 nights in Macau, non-weekends, and then switched it over. Yeah, like Mandarin Oriental is $1,200.
Ooh.
But it is what it is.
If you want to go to Macau on a budget, go during the week. That's our closing top tip, I guess.
Yeah, that's my suggestion. It seems like Vegas. It's pricey on the weekends.
Interesting.
All right, we'll see you guys next week.
Later, guys.